I'm Youngmann. I'm a Colorado watercolorist. I've been painting watercolors for over 50 years. I have a master's degree in drawing. I primarily paint plein air, which means I go out on location during the warm months of the summer, but in the last 18 months I've been doing more studio work, so that's what's happening at this point. I've done a lot of truck paintings or vehicle paintings over the years, and I can't afford to restore old trucks and cars, so I paint them, which my wife appreciates because we don't have all those parts and stuff laying around. So one of the things that with doing the paintings of the truck is after a while you want to do something to change them up. So the painting that's in the show at Foothills is called Fractured Memories. And what I was trying to do was to try to take the realistic image of the painting and push it a little bit more abstract. So it has a kind of an abstract feel to it, even though it's kind of shattered, I guess is the best term. When I was in high school, I took all the art classes that you could get. I went to Arvada West High School, so I took all the art classes that you could get at that time, and I went away to college to become a potter at the University of Northern Colorado. And when I got there was 57 other kids that wanted to become potters too. And my dad's, who was an art student himself, said, maybe you ought to think about teaching it so you have something to fall back on. So I went into the teaching part of it. And doing that, you need to know about drawing and painting and all the other aspects of art. So that's kind of how I got into the watercolor. And my high school art teacher at that time was a watercolorist, Dave Passarelli. So I started doing a lot more watercolor. I got my master's degree in drawing from UNC in 1979, and during the summer months when I wasn't teaching, I would go out with Dave and we would just paint along the Front Range. My father was a photographer for over 75 years. I kind of have this innate thing that I can see the composition before I put it down on the paper. So as I'm traveling around the Front Range or driving, and my wife will testify to this, there's lots of times we have to go back around the block because I saw a painting, and a lot of times when I would go out to paint, I would see the painting before I put it down on the paper. And the ironic thing is I didn't teach a whole lot of watercolor when I was teaching. I taught drawing for 25 years at Golden High School, so my primary thing was to teach drawing, and when I would come home at night, I would paint, or during the summer months, I would do watercolor on location. I taught for 30 years. I retired from teaching, and now I'm an artist full-time. I still teach periodically. I recently was in charge of the large show at the Arvada Center. I put on the Western Federation of Watercolor show with a team of artists of 11. I'm often asked, if I could only have one media, what media would I take? And even though I'm a watercolorist, I say, well, I would take a wooden pencil. If that's they're going to take away everything except one, what would it be? I would stick with a wooden pencil, just because I love the feel of pencil on the paper, same way as I love the color. But I always start from a drawing, a pretty well-developed drawing, before I add the color to it. I use thin layers of watercolor and build up the color. That requires some patience, and it also requires a good paper. The piece of paper I'm working right now is not the most advantageous for it, but a heavy paper will accept a lot of water, and so you can put lots and lots of layers of color on it. I like that when the color builds up, it gets a richness to it that you can't get from just the straight color out of the tube. So that's why I do a constant glazing, one color over the top of another one. And that's primarily how watercolor started out. It was started out as being a transparent media, and that's the way I like to work with it. How do I get started becoming an artist? Get yourself a sketchbook and a pencil and just start drawing. Anything and everything that you like. It can be out of your head, it can be observation. That'll get you inspired. And then if you decide you want to paint, you've got some references you can go back and paint. If you want to continue drawing, you can do that. Teaching for 30 years, 25 years at the high school, I taught over 10,000 students, and I have a lot of them come back and always tell me Boy, you were so right about using the sketchbook, and I still to this day I'll run to a student and say, I'm so glad you taught me how to use a sketchbook. So buy yourself a sketchbook and a good pencil and eraser and go for it.